Alright boys, today's video, my full diet plan on exactly what I would eat if I was wanting to gain muscle or if I was wanting to lose body fat. I'm going to give you the exact kind of two diet plans, how I structure things and how I would go about a kind of week in the life of eating. Now I'm not suggesting that I'm going to give a diet plan that does both of these things. That's very, very unlikely unless you're just starting out in the gym. I'm going to give you a kind of a bit of an understanding and a reasoning as to how I structure things and why I do things, so you can basically take it with a pinch of salt and do your own sort of thing with your diet, so you know exactly how to eat for whatever goal that you do have. Now, without further ado, we shall get stuck in. So, number one, we're going to talk about the standards and how to exactly plan your diet. So first off, I would always highly recommend having 5 to 6 meals per day. You can have 3 to 4, and I understand it is much more favorable in terms of how busy people are. It makes more sense. However, you have to think, when bulking, if you're going to have 3 to 4 meals, you are going to have a lot of calories, and that is going to put a lot of stress on your digestive system and your gut. When you're cutting, you want to reduce hunger as much as possible. Therefore, it makes more sense to space out your meals across 5 to 6 different periods of time. So either way, 5 to 6 meals is always going to be favorable. What I like to do is start eating around 8 or 9 in the morning. I always do a little fast in the morning because when I'm working, it just kind of sits right with me. And then I will eat every 2 to 3 hours, which is my next point. Eat every 2 to 3 hours. If you can't do that and you're really, really bad at it, you can literally use an alarm. That's what I've used before, or there's apps out there. But eventually you build that habit and it becomes really easy. I say that, it's 7:30 and I have to have 2 more meals, so I'm not amazing at it. But it's kind of what you want to be doing. And there's a lot of reasons why. A perfect example is protein. A lot of people have 100 grams of protein per meal. I used to do this. I used to have 2 meals per day and have 100 grams of protein in that one and 100 grams in the other. Your body can't really absorb it. A lot of it just gets kind of excreted out of your body as urea. So it just goes to waste essentially, and it's not very good for you. So you are better off splitting your meals. It's always going to do you very good. So make sure you're doing that. Now, I mentioned that I kind of fast in the morning with black coffee. This is very, very useful if you are cutting. If you are finding that it gets very, very difficult to, maintain your hunger, control that, and then you find that you get cravings, it's typically because you're not using the early mornings to fast. That is when most people are not hungry. It's rare that you kind of wake up and want to eat instantly. And you can also use coffee to suppress your appetite, which you would be drinking in the morning. So it's 2 birds, 1 stone. What I tend to do is have a coffee first thing. It wakes me up, it makes me productive, and it also suppresses my appetite. So therefore, I can push my first meal to later. If I have my first meal at 9, then I can have my second meal at 12. I can have my third meal at 3. I can have my fourth meal at around 6. Little post-workout meal around 7:30. And my last meal at 9. That way, I'm always eating up until bed. It means I don't finish my calories at 6 p.m. like some people do, and then having to look through the fridge for little snacks here because I'm now hungry. I've planned, and as a result, I'm not going to get hungry. I'm not going to get cravings. Another thing is making sure that you're incorporating fruit, veg, and overall subs. One for just health, skin, hair, overall function, but also including veg and fruit they're very low in calories. So especially when you're in a dieting phase, this will really, really help keep you full without actually taking up many calories. And also 5 a day, it's got to be done. This is something I neglected, but now I eat vegetables with every single meal. Like, you can just, there's a good old saying, it's like, if your plate isn't colourful, then you're doing something wrong, and it will really show up in your daily life and the way you're thinking and how your skin is looking, how certain parts of your health is actually working. So realistically, you need to be very careful with that. Now, the next is obviously protein. Really, really important. I always kind of organise my diet around the protein. That's the first macro you want to be using, and obviously I would aim for 1.2 grams per pound. It's very, there's a lot of different ways of doing this, but this is kind of what I go for. So I'm around 70 kg, 72. I'd say I'm around 160 or something pounds. So if I do 1.2 times that, it's around 180, 190 I need to be eating. And if anything, that might even be a bit too much, but I like to be on the kind of over consuming spectrum just in case, because it's my job to build muscle, so I don't want to be ever short. And the next point would be scheduling carbs pre and post workout. A lot of people say carbs are the enemy. If you look at that, I'm cutting right now, and my goal is to get as shredded as possible, but you'll see that there are a lot of carbs in there. The reason why is because we use carbs for performance. You're going to have to do a lot of cardio, you're going to have to do a lot of training, and you're there to maintain your muscle, potentially even build muscle if you're just starting out. You need those carbs. So don't listen to what everyone says. Carbs are useful, they are good for you. They can cause bloatedness if you're eating the wrong form of carbs. but it's very, very temporary, and it's just water retention. It can go just like that. So I would highly recommend keeping them in. If you've got a big holiday, then maybe it's a case of reducing your carbs then to reduce all bloatedness. But other than that, they should always be a staple in your diet, and everything should be balanced. What I do like to do is have training day calories and non-training day calories, where I bring the carbs down, so you'll have more fats on the days where you're not training, because you obviously don't need as much energy. So that's kind of one thing you can do. For the most part, you definitely want, a high carb meal pre-workout. You're always going to have a better session as a result. As I spoke about in the last few points, spacing protein evenly with each meal is highly important. Again, the absorption, your body can't digest that amount of protein if you're having 200 grams of protein. Some people have 1 meal per day and tries to have 200 grams of protein. That's pretty crazy. That's a lot of stress in your body. I like to kind of space my protein evenly. I did not used to do this. I used to have 3 meals per day. I used to have 2 meals per day and have 100 grams here, 100 grams here, and I just think that was the worst way to do things. I personally have a maximum around 50 grams per meal, and that works really, really well for me. I feel amazing as a result. And another really important thing is having high quality whole foods. You'll have a look here. The foods I'm eating and the sources of protein are all pretty much whole foods. One, essential amino acids, protein shakes and, stuff you get from the shop, or these kind of like turkey rashers or whatever. Yeah, they might have a high protein intake, but they don't have the essential amino acids, which is what you're after. And as a result, you're going to have to supplement that. So it's always in your interest to get your protein from whole foods. Yes, whey protein and protein isolate can be very, very useful, and I would highly recommend it. However, it's a supplement. It should be supplementing your main diet, and shouldn't be one of your main meals. Not to mention, having whole foods and unprocessed and clean organic foods in your diet will optimize your testosterone, which will always allow you to build more muscle. You'll also be a lot clearer in the brain. You'll be able to think better, which is very, very important. And you won't be bloated all the time, so you will be able to maintain that lean look, especially if you are cutting. Those are some standards which I would suggest to incorporate when planning your diet. Now, this is my weekly shopping list. You could have a quick glimpse there, but pretty balanced. In terms of carbs, I go for sweet potato, bagels, some fruit. So any sort of fruits you want, it's all pretty much the same. I like to include bananas because potassium, high energy. And then I'll go organic honey as well, mixed vegetables as well for pretty much all my meals. My dual dates. Dates are really, really good for pre-workout. Oats, staple, and then some sort of bread. Sourdough seems to do the trick. Then we go for protein sources: chicken breast, salmon, steak mince. You can have steak as well. Tuna, very, very cheap and very easy to cook. You don't really have to do anything with that. Whey protein, skyr yogurt, very, very good. Eggs, egg whites. That's pretty much what I'm doing in terms of fat and protein. Fats, I have dark chocolate, peanut butter, and avocados. I'm not even eating avocados much at the moment because I'm on a cut, so I don't really want to be utilizing that. That's more useful in a bulk. And then in terms of my subs, creatine mid-workout, zinc and magnesium before bed, and then the rest all in the morning. So vitamin D, K2, this helps with testosterone, focus, and overall muscle growth, bone health, function, all of that. B complex, vitamin E, multivitamin, omegas, vitamin C, and then electrolytes and pink Himalayan salt for hydration. If you cannot afford electrolytes or don't have access to any, pink Himalayan salt does a trick. Have around 4 to 6 grams per day with each meal. And if you're sweating a lot, make sure to incorporate that pre and post workout, and that should do the trick. But that's just kind of my diet. You'll notice a lot of it is very healthy. It's whole foods, organic. This makes me feel good, and that's the most important thing. And it's optimized to improve your testosterone, improve your overall health. So if you would like to copy that, be my guest. Now, that's kind of what I do on a weekly basis. And this is what a typical diet looks like. So again, 6 meals. Right now on my cut, 2.6k calories on a training day, 2.3k on a non-training day. So if you have a look kind of what I'm eating, in the morning, we've got protein oats, so 80 grams of oats, scoop of protein, 100 grams of berries, around 15 grams of peanut butter for those fats. And then we'll go on to 180 gram uncooked chicken, 100 gram broccoli, 125 gram rice. We've got sweet potato, steak mince, broccoli, Greek yogurt, dark chocolate, berries. And then my pre-workout meal will be here. So typically I like to train in the afternoon, so I might swap these around. But if I'm training late, this is how I would structure things. And I would just simply have a bagel, put some honey on the bagel. I'd weigh all of this out. Dates for quick energy, this is high in calories, and a banana. And then when I finish the workout, quick scoop of protein and some fruits to replenish the glycogen. And that's pretty much kind of what I would do in the way of meals. You'll notice that there's protein distributed in every single meal, and that maybe a little bit less here, but it's pretty balanced overall, and everything is is pretty useful in terms of kind of providing what my body needs. So cannot complain. When it comes to a non-training day, what I'd like to do is reduce the carbs and up the fats. So this is where I'll bring in the salmon, the avocado, and the eggs, and I'll probably, take out certain things such as the rice and the sweet potato, or reduce those quantities. Now, that's pretty much kind of what I do. Take it with a pinch of salt. This is what I like to do. If you are bulking, I would do the exact same thing, because the reason why is I like this diet, I like these foods, but I would have everything with more quantity, and I'd be a little bit strategic with the carb and fat sources. Wouldn't change the protein. Protein is absolutely fine. Protein does not need to increase when I'm bulking, maybe ever so slightly. The only thing that needs to change is the quantity of carbs and fats we're consuming. So rice is pretty low in calories compared to pasta, so I would incorporate some sort of organic whole grain pasta, because there are a lot of simple carbohydrate pastas which are not very good for your body, and they're very processed, so you want to be looking for the best kind of sources there. And then I would be using fats, because obviously fats are 9 calories per gram, so using avocado, olive oil, nuts, this would be really help just kind of make up that excess. And I'll give you a good example kind of what a bulking diet would be like. So you'll notice that I just up the oats, up the fats here, so put some more peanut butter in. I'll go double the rice, so rather than 125 I'll do 250. Swap out sweet potato and put in pasta. That's around 700 calories. That sweet potato was around 300. Keep the steak mince the same. Might actually increase it a little bit because there's more fats in that. And obviously frozen pasta sauce, which adds some calories. I'll then add some more carbs here, so 50 grams of granola. Keep that meal the same. Keep that pre-workout meal, post-workout meal the same, and that will probably get you to around 3.5k calories. Protein stays the same. Then I do the exact same thing on a non-training day. Just reduce the carbs, up the fats, and that's pretty much what you're doing. And I'd say once you find a winning method, once you find kind of 2 variations, pretty much stick with that, and then you take out little things dependent on kind of your calorie goals, and you kind of do that on a weekly basis. But that's how I would structure things. And then some key points which I want to talk about is, 1, making sure that you're hydrated. I always talk about this bottle here. Just try and drink 500 millilitres with every single meal. It's really key for digestion and just overall hydration. Also, speaking of hydration, add salt to each meal, especially when cutting. You lose a lot of water when sweating, when you're doing your cardio, when you're doing steps, especially if you're in a hot country as well. So always be adding salt. Tastes nice as well, but it's very important. Don't believe everything everyone says about, you should having too much salt. It's important. It replenishes the electrolytes. A big one is weighing everything out and sticking to uncooked weights. It's the most consistent way to do things. You can weigh things when they're cooked, but typically I think it's easier just to kind of weigh out your chicken uncooked, and it makes a massive difference. If you have 200 grams of uncooked chicken, it is very different to 200 grams of cooked chicken, because that 200 gram of uncooked chicken will turn into around 150 gram of cooked chicken, and that changes everything when it comes to your protein, the amount of calories you're consuming, etc. Another really key point is being careful with olive oils and sauces. This can be the difference between a calorie surplus and a calorie deficit. I know this because if you're in a deficit and you find that you're not losing body fat and you are cooking in olive oil because you're cooking steak or you're using butter or whatever, that's adding 100 to 200 calories. You have that meal twice, you're now adding 400 calories. And now that 2.6k calorie diet is now at 3,000. So you're likely going to maintain weight or potentially even put yourself in a surplus. So be cooking and fry like 0 calorie sprays, and be very sparing with sauces. I weigh mine out once, and then I kind of know what's around 10 grams, and then I know that serving's around 50 calories or so it's not too bad. And finally, meal prep. What can be meal prepped? You don't want to get to a point where it's very late and you're tired and you can't cook something, so meal prepping really does save you a lot of time. I would highly recommend this. And those are pretty much my key points when it comes to organising a diet. That and the standards I spoke about at the start. I've given you a rough idea of kind of what I get on a weekly basis and how I would structure things. So I was cutting and bulking. I feel like a lot of people do want a little bit of help with diet, so I figured it'd be a good video to make. So I hope that was useful. If anyone is struggling with diet, please do let me know. But other than that, I hope that kind of gave you a good idea into kind of how I do things on a weekly basis, how you can kind of implement that and use that with your diet if you're struggling. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below or just send me a DM. But other than that, boys, today's video, all good. Let's keep the consistency going. We'll be back again tomorrow. Pretty tired today, but I hope that was very useful, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.